Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. You know, the travelers on the Love Your Parks tour and publishers of Big Blend magazines. You know, we are all excited about the Jefferson-Highway. This is a very historic highway that goes from Winnipeg to New Orleans. It's from the Pines to the Palms, or you can go in reverse from the Palms to the Pines. This is one of America's very first vacation routes, but it's different than just being in America and crossing America. It touches internationally by going into Canada. There is a huge revival going on. It's been going on for 10, 15 years. And so every fourth Thursday, we air a show on the Jefferson-Highway. Nancy and I have been doing a little bit of travel on the highway. Actually, a lot of it we didn't know about the highway. Now we do. And next year, you're going to see us traveling the highway and see some special edition magazines from us on the highway. And we're going to continue this show, of course. So every fourth Thursday, but today, of course, with Thanksgiving being the fourth Thursday, we're airing this a little early. So radio about that, bigblendradio.com. And I encourage you to go to the website, jeffersonhighway.org. As always on our shows, we have the Jefferson-Highway president, Roger Bell, on the show. Welcome back, Roger. How are you?
Good. I'm great. It's great to be here again.
Hey, how is Oklahoma? How's Muskogee? I
Oh,
always want to sing when I hear that word. Name, I should say.
we're good. We're going through the yo-yo effects of weather here. We've had a little snow this last week, and then it went away, and then we had a little dusting again. But it just kind of comes yo-yoing back and forth. But it's kind of the way it is where I am. We're kind of on the dividing line. I think here's a lot of weather, so it's just kind of common for us. But getting ready for Thanksgiving, and we're good.
Good. How far are you from Franklin, Kansas?
We're probably a couple of hours, maybe. I'm guessing somewhere in that area.
Okay, well,
south.
that means we have to meet up then. When we go to Franklin, you got to come see us there when we go. And
2 to 3 hours, probably.
Not bad.
Close.
Not bad.
Yeah, a little over 2 hours.
Well, today we're excited. We're going to bring a special guest on the show, Phyllis Bittner. She's a trustee and co-chair of the Dragline Committee for the Miners Hall Museum Foundation in Franklin in Southeast Kansas. Now, I encourage you to go to the website of this museum. The history in this city is amazing. Go to minershallmuseum.com. Welcome to the show, Phyllis. How are you?
Fine. Thank you for asking me.
Hey, thank you, Roger, for getting us all together. When Nancy and I went through some of your notes you sent us about the timeline of history, and I mean, it's incredible. And going on the website, the history seems a lot in regards to obviously mining, right? And then there's the history of immigration, there's a history of women, the Native American history. You've got so much happening in your area. And of course, weather has affected your area too, tornadoes, etc. And we're going to talk about that. But you are right on the Jefferson-Highway, right? Franklin is you don't have to detour. If you go through Franklin, you are on the highway.
Absolutely. We are, yes, directly on the highway. So, and we're excited about that. We've just had so many things already that have happened because of the interest in the Jefferson-Highway.
So what about the museum? How far is it off of the highway? Is it close to the highway itself?
It is directly on the highway. I mean, you are there. It's it's there. You will see it. You cannot miss it if you're traveling the highway. The museum is right there.
You have to get off. You have to get off the 4-lane slab there a little bit, which is and go right into the heart of, just like a lot of the original route. They went through the hearts of communities, and this is no different. So, but it's just on the original route. Right on the original route.
There's a bypass that goes around two communities. Arma and Franklin are two small communities, and so the bypass, which isn't the Jefferson-Highway, a lot of people would go on that bypass, but if you stay on the what's actually Highway 69, so if you stay on the business route, that is the Jefferson-Highway, and that's where we're located.
So I was reading Arma and Franklin at one time, I'm not sure if this is still true, were connected by this highway sidewalk. Franklin
Well, they still are. They still
are
are.
they? Oh,
Yes.
that's cool.
You can walk the sidewalk today.
Right. It's 1.7 miles long, and it was built, the story goes, because they closed the school in Franklin. The communities are like many, you don't know kind of where one ends and one begins. So the children had to go to school in Arma, and they were walking along the highway, and one little girl was, hit by a vehicle and
Oh.
died. And so then that was the story of why they pushed to get that sidewalk built. So, but it is still there, and it's
Wow, cool.
1.7 miles long. And so we did our best, and we're successful. It's listed on the state and national historic register. So we tell
Cool.
everyone to come and walk the walk,
Oh, cool.
and they're walking a national historic site,
And it's the
Wow.
longest sidewalk in the country.
connecting two communities. The longest
Okay, yeah,
sidewalk
okay.
connecting, because there's sidewalks within, say, New York City that are, of course, longer, but this connects two small communities.
And Phyllis, you have school groups or kids walk that highway today?
Oh, we have people that walk it. Yes. Right. That use it every day. They use it daily. We need to do some work on it. And, we just have so many projects always in the work. Everything kind of gets prioritized, but that's our goal, is to absolutely restore it. And we have, like we've had a work day, and it's literally, it's amazing to be that old, and it's 3 foot wide. We've got all the original specs on the highway. And when we were out there, pulling back the dirt and the weeds, it is still there, a 3 foot wide sidewalk.
Wow.
So it's going to be right. Exactly. So it's going to be beautiful.
So cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
This is exciting to me. I mean, we have
Yeah.
a Facebook group called 1 Hour Walk. And we
Really?
made it
Uh-huh.
well because our Love Your Parks tour started of national park units, and of course now we cover absolutely any park. I don't care if it's not even like a quarter of an acre in a city, if it's a pocket park, because it's about beautifying America, really keeping our spaces and not having to. We need parking lots, but we also need to have the greenery in there too, and respites and towns. But the reason why is we started this is people thought that if you go to a national park, you have to be like a backpacker and be able to go off in the wilderness. And the thing is, there's they are boarded walkways. There's ADA compliant areas in all parks pretty much, and even a lot of state parks. They want to be accessible, and this sounds like an accessible kind of trail for people to do. And we want to encourage people to get out, not just for the fitness level, but also to be observant and to be able to walk in the footsteps of history. And I think this
Right.
is one of those walks that I definitely want to do, because you can just imagine what it was like then, and so I love it that it's, brings family, community together, and some just walking in history. Now, the Miners Home Museum, let's talk a little bit about why that was started, because this is really, we talk about coal mining. I think we always go to Appalachia, right? It's kind of like Kentucky and Virginia, West Virginia areas in our
Right.
minds. But like I was talking to Nancy today, she's like, Lisa, it happened across the country. This is all over. Mining has happened. But is it predominantly coal mining in Southeast Kansas that was happening?
Yes. We were coal mining, and practically all of the ground here is undermined. If you're going to build something, you do a lot of groundwork, preliminary work, to know if it was a deep shaft mine or shallow mining, because mining was everywhere. There were, and I couldn't even tell you the number of coal mines that there were, but it's like massive. We have a big map within the museum that shows the areas, and yes, so it was coal mining. But we like to tell everyone that, because you think, oh, who wants to go to a coal mining museum and see a bunch of coal mining tools? But we always tell everyone that really we are telling that immigrant story. We start with the early immigrants, of the families coming here, and then how they got into the coal mining, but then also how the family lived, like what was their social life, their religion, schools. So it's really an interesting story when you go through, and our museum is broken into segments like that. So you start out learning a little bit about the immigrants and those stories, and when they got here, a lot of them, their families were begging them to please come back to whatever country they were from. We have letters saying, "When are you coming back?" And
Oh, wow.
they were so hopeful that better life here in the United States, that they weren't going back, they were staying here.
Wow. And this is, interesting too, because it ties in with agricultural communities. We were in Central California and went to an agricultural history museum, and one room was dedicated to the immigrants that came to make that what it is today. And, it was amazing to me who came from, like Hmong people, which they've lost their actual land. I mean, they don't have a country anymore. They don't have a place anymore, and which is sad. However, they made their home there, and they're a huge part of why Central California is the breadbasket of America, So it's kind of this interesting thing how these things that really were huge in our lives to be a civilization, right? Were immigrant stories. And I think we
Right.
forget all the multiple places that immigrants came from,
It
Right.
is really, when I was in this area and at our conference in Pittsburgh, nearby Pittsburgh this year, the stories that you learn of these are just amazing. The different countries they came from and how these, um, they had to have interpreters at times to communicate to each other. And it really is a blending of so many cultures and so many
Mhm.
families in this area that is a great, fascinating story of America.
Mm.
Really,
maybe
doesn't it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we're all from immigrant stock in this country.
That's right.
Unless you're
Yeah.
of the indigenous peoples, the Native
Right.
Americans, and
Right.
some Native American tribes do come from Canada, so they knew the Jefferson-Highway before it was a Jefferson-Highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But this
Right.
this is something to bring up, right? The Jefferson-Highway was actually came through was like formed at the same time as all this mining history, right, Phyllis? Am I right on the timeline here?
I'm sorry, say that again. That what?
The timeline of when the Jefferson-Highway was created and came
Its
through
time
Franklin.
period would have came right during the heyday of mining activity.
Yeah, right. 1923 is when it was dedicated. Um, the Jefferson Highway was dedicated in 23. So,
Fully dedicated. Yeah. Mhm.
right. So that was right in exactly like you said, the heyday of mining there. Mhm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so we really tell about all these immigrants, like I say, and we have special quarterly exhibits at the museum, and each quarter we have a specific topic. And the fourth quarter of every year, we tell the story of one of the countries. So, for instance, our exhibit this quarter is about Belgium. We've done Slovenia. So, so for 3 months, we have a kind of an expansive exhibit about
Wow.
that country and their traditions. And we hold a monthly program, and one of the programs might tell about their food, and then someone hosts it, and they might make a pizza and an apple strudel, and everyone gets to sample it, or they might
good.
even have a cooking
yum.
class of how to make it, and then it'll tell about maybe their holiday traditions, or so those are very well attended. People love that because their ancestry might be from that country, and even if not, we have people coming, they want to know more about, say, the Belgians right now. So that's kind of interesting, and we really want to tell everyone, we all came from that stock.
Yep.
So it's an interesting story.
And the
Mhm.
food part is really interesting when you have people working really hard, and then you may not have the ingredients you had from the country you came from, but you want to keep those traditions going, so it changes up a little bit. But people will work together to create that one dish. Like maybe somebody has this ingredient. You know what I mean? In history, you had to do what you had to do. It wasn't just like, hey, we're just moving here, came on a fancy little, train, or, it wasn't easy for people to move. When we go
Oh,
back,
no.
we're looking, 100 years ago, literally
Right.
right now. And when
And
you
we're
think
stunned
about,
at some Okay, we're
It was
stunned at
hard.
some of the items we have that people, because like you say, when you travel now, you have 6 suitcases and, everyone has their own suitcase and you're full of things. And these people came over with one trunk,
Mhm.
and then yet we are fortunate to have an item. Perhaps it was a cookie iron that they carried over here with them that was so important to bake their French cookies or whatever. And they kept that item. It was a very, very important thing to their family. They didn't have a lot of, whether it was photos or things hanging on the wall or mementos. It's interesting to see what was important to them, what they kept.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, this is okay. So then the Jefferson Highway goes right through the town, but the museum is right there. One thing I was reading is that you have this huge thing happening. I don't even I and so
It
no,
is.
because no, this is a big deal. And when I say it's a big thing, it is a big thing. Tell everybody what the big thing is, because it's the big
Okay,
thing.
it is big in many ways, right? It is
Hmm.
big in the news, and then it is a big item. And fortunately, we were just able to release this information. We've been working on this for 8 years,
Wow.
and a local family who was a mining family. They actually, so there were big mining companies like Western Coal Company, and they might have had 50 mines around the area. But then there were small families that actually had their own coal company. They were entrepreneurs, and they maybe only had 3 or 4 little mining areas or whatever. But the Wilkinson Coal Company was one of those families, and they came from England, and they had their own coal company, and they were down to one piece of equipment that the descendants still had on their property, and they contacted us about they'd like to donate it to us.
Oh,
So
cool.
we've been working for 8 years to make that happen, and as you can imagine, uh, it has 110-foot boom on it.
Wow.
So you can imagine it's large. It would be like moving a an engine off of a train or something. It's not like, oh, we'll just throw it on a trailer and move it. It's a big project. So we were just awarded a huge grant, and 2 foundations came along and offered matching funds. So we're going to be able to do that. And
Wow.
it's going to be about 4 blocks away from the museum, but you'll be able to even see it from the museum. The location is amazing, and it will be directly on the Jefferson Highway.
Cool.
And it's going to be a free tourist attraction. There won't be admission, or anything. People can pull in there. It's almost going to be like a little roadside park is what we're going to create. So they'll be able to go there and read about it and learn a little bit more about it and see about the history. So we're really grateful to the Wilkinson family for donating that to us. And they will now have 3 pieces of equipment at 3 of the museums in the area. They had already placed one at Big Brutus, which is not directly on the Jefferson Highway, but if you're traveling the Jefferson Highway, it's definitely worth the trip to go off the highway to see it. I'm not sure, it might be 10 miles off of the highway. And then Crawford County Historical Museum also has a steam shovel from the Wilkinsons, and now we'll complete that by moving the drag line to Franklin.
Wow, this is amazing. And
Wow.
let's just go the drag line. You put this in the notes here. Listen, Phyllis sent us a book. It's because there's so much history here. I'm just teasing you, Phyllis, but I was like, wow, this is so much. It's so cool. I love this piece of history because, again, look at these corridors, right? These historic corridors we have in this country, and of course the Jefferson Highway. So the drag line was actually purchased in 1953 from Alexandria, Louisiana. Think about that.
Oh, wow.
I know.
And so
Yes.
Alexandria, Louisiana is on the Jefferson Highway, close to Natchitoches. By the way, thank you for sponsoring the show, Natchitoches Convention and Visitor Bureau. But I think that's amazing. Don't you think so, Roger? That look at these ties that happen,
Yes.
Oh, we went away here. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're here.
Back. Okay.
But I think these ties are part of the reason why to have museums and have people travel the highway, because they could go to Alexandria and go, okay, this came from here.
Yeah, it's
depending on which
amazing.
way they traveled,
It's
Roger, are you there?
amazing. Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can we hear you? We
Yeah,
hear
I
you
guess
now.
it's just amazing how sometimes these the different connections on the highway.
Mm,
I think there's reasons for that at times because the road itself was a connection, so it just kind of makes sense. But there is a lot of connections and communities on the highway.
Yeah, I just wouldn't have thought coming from Louisiana, on that part of it. But I also want to connect it. It's interesting because it went to Weir, Kansas. And Weir, there's like a Weir National Historic Site in Connecticut because of James Weir, the artist. So I want to dig into the history because it ties back to England. And we have a whole show dedicated on connecting England with America and the, English immigrants, right? And so the
Mhm.
Wilkinsons were English. So that's another tie in the immigration story. So I want to dig into that too. So
Right.
there's a lot
We
going
always,
on.
we
Go
joke
ahead.
with people when we're like, don't ever say anything about someone
yeah,
because
because
there's so many ties that are stunning to us. We'll be talking to someone and then we're like, oh my goodness, we're like, be careful what you say because you might be their cousin or you
I
might
know, I was
be
going to say you're going to
exactly.
be related. I know.
It's true. That's so true. I mean,
right.
sometimes you find out more about your family than you want to.
Right.
Another good
Yeah.
reason for museums, right? So, Phyllis, I want to go back to this Franklin itself,
Okay.
creating the museum, how that began, because it seems that also the the town, the community went through a tornado that was devastating, and
Right.
this is kind of part of a rebirth of Franklin, the museum,
Yes.
and getting the history there. And it's amazing you have these the photos, the stories, and been able to save all that. And I think that's, again, when you think about museums, disasters are happening across the country, whether it's hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, and sadly, but whatever we
Right.
can do to preserve and not wait to go and experience it, the better.
Well, we think and hope we can be an inspiration to other communities that have gone through the same thing because back in the 20s, Franklin was booming. I mean, it had a downtown like you would think of a major city. We had everything, theaters, dance halls, restaurants, just everything. And then as the coal mining dwindled, then the
Mm.
community dwindled and became smaller and smaller. And I lived there, went to school there. And, first the high school closed, then the grade school closed,
Ooh.
just that natural progression of what happens. And so in 2003, it was like 217 families. It was a lovely little community to live in. Everyone, the post office was like the central part of the community. I can remember when someone would pass away, you would go to the post office because there would be the little notebook there. You would make your donation for flowers, or you would say, I'm going to take food to the family. People would sign that book and leave their name. It was like the hub of the community, even though it was a small community. And then in 2003, tornado came right through the center of the town and just wiped everything literally off of the earth. It was just gone. And it was amazing. The people, we always said our neighbors go far beyond just the edges of Franklin because people came from everywhere. I mean, throughout the state, they traveled, they came in and helped with cleanup. Unfortunately, we lost one of our longtime residents. Josephine Mack passed away in the tornado. And but so we started, where we're like, well, now what do we do? And so a group of us that were, had grown up and were raised in Franklin, we didn't want to see it stay like this. So we formed a nonprofit. We had a local attorney that came to us and he said, how can I help? And he's still helping today. So he has provided his services to us for pro bono all of these years. He's like amazing. And he's kind of taken us under his wing and he guides us through everything. But we rebuilt a community. And one of the things was we knew how important the old community hall was. And so FEMA and USDA rural development, they helped, and we built a community center is what it was called. And we had a lot of events, and we had dances and dinners and things. And, then as time moved on, things were slowing down a little bit. So we want to keep it going. So I contacted a few people that had shown an interest in a mining museum somewhere in Southeast Kansas. And we were just able to get that off the ground. Everyone was interested. And so we've turned the community center into the museum, although we still have community events, and like we have the quarterly exhibits and programs. And we just had a huge event last night. And our next plan, we're like, things get put on the back burner, but our goal is to add on to the building. We will actually turn the museum back into more of a community center, and we will add on, which will become the new museum. We've had so much interest and support. We have so many artifacts that we can't even display and tell those stories. So once we get the big drag line moved, our next project is to add on to the building.
So I see this big wide load on the highway, the Jefferson-Highway, the wide load. Everybody stand back. The drag line's coming.
The drag line's coming, but that's like
we have people from Connecticut and Virginia who are like, you have to let us know when you're moving. I mean, I think our hotels will all be full the week of the move, because we have already had people contact us and said, and the drag line is one of a kind. There were only 18 of this particular model made, and it is the only one feasible to restore. There's one out in a field that's really a parts machine, but so this will be the only one in the country. And there's been big equipment people and organizations from all over the country that they've been for 8 years. They've been after us. You have to save it. It's probably not possible, but you have to do all you can. So they are all excited. They want to come and watch the move. So like I say, I think our hotels will be full when we do. So we tell everyone, follow us on Facebook, the Miners Hall Museum on Facebook, because then you'll know when the move is going to happen, and we're kind of posting updates of what we're doing.
Phyllis, it looked like there was some activity already. When I could tell, some pre-work on it or something on the ground.
Right. We've started that. We had the engineers were in last week, and they had to come and drill and do core samples, to make sure of the stability of the ground, because it was undermined. Everything's undermined. I mean, you just about know there's a mine somewhere, and it might be 20 feet down and it might be way down. And at that location, the mines were, I believe it was 170 to 190 feet deep. So it won't, the integrity of that site will be okay. But we had to get the engineers in to determine, how much the base of what to put for a base and all that kind of thing. So, we've already started that, and I posted some pictures of that. So it's kind of fun. Like I say, Facebook's the best place to follow along. I try to post updates as we're moving the project along, and we hope to move it soon. We don't have a date. I'm meeting with the movers next week, and he couldn't possibly move it before January, which is good.
I just got the giggles when you say you're meeting with the movers, and I'm like, no, it's not a U-Haul truck. This ain't no U-Haul truck.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's not United Van Lines or that kind of a movie.
No,
right.
No. That's it. Nancy, I think we need to be there. We got to be I want to be in the parade.
I want to go see it.
I know we do. We're going to, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a slow parade, believe me.
And wide. This is
going to be one of those
double wide.
Yeah. It's going to be the wide load on the freeway.
I know, but this is
yeah.
I think this is such incredible history, and it's amazing how the community, what you guys have done coming together. And we've been through natural disasters ourselves, and there's something, it's devastating while it's happening. It's devastating actually worse after, right? You go through something like that, and we've done it on the wildfire side and other things. But it's amazing how communities do come together, and there's a resiliency. And I think it's not there's obviously sad things like COVID, people passing. So I'm not going there. I'm going, you've got to hold on to hope and resiliency and create something better and go, okay, well, this is a big mess. Now what can we do to make it a huge positive? You got to make, lemonade out of lemons, right? And
Mhm.
I hate saying
Exactly.
that same cliche, but it's really true. And that
Mhm.
seems like that's what you guys have done, and that it's in
Right.
a beautiful area. And so do you have when people come to Franklin, are there hotels, restaurants? What's it like to come visit?
Okay, no, Franklin, we're considered a village. Our governing body, we don't have a mayor and a city council. Our
Well,
governing
sometimes that's
body,
easier. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
right. So our governing body is actually our county commission. So we go to the county, if we need something along the lines of, whatever it is. So that's why we did the nonprofit. We formed the nonprofit so we can accept donations. We can, keep track of all of those things. We can apply for grants to get things accomplished. And we've had to go, for instance, the sidewalk actually belongs to the state. It's on
Oh,
you see, it's a state highway but we have gotten permission. We had to go through that process of getting permission from the state to do this, and now we want to restore it. And that, of course, they're thrilled that we're doing all the work, and they're like, wow, that's wonderful, So one thing as you were talking about that, I'm totally out of line here, what you're talking about, but when you were talking about this rebuilding, one of the things after the tornado, and you're stunned, and for weeks and months you're trying to get your bearings and what are we going to do, is the silence in the community. So there was a community center there, and the post office was the two buildings, like I say, where things happened. We finally realized the silence was, there were no animals. There were no birds chirping.
oh, wow.
There were no crickets. There was nothing. It was just
I
like,
know exactly what you're talking about. You're
and
really
that
right.
was
Yeah.
that was the stunning thing to us. So where the community center used to be, we called it the community hall back in the day. So where it wasn't large enough. We knew we wanted to put a larger building, and so we went about a half a block away, and were able to purchase some property, which is the site of the Amazon Army March. But at the site of the old community center, we decided to put a community park. So we literally built a park. And we have a walking path, So you're walking along the Jefferson-Highway. You can do that. But then within our park, which is beautiful, we planted trees and shrubs and flowers.
Cool.
And you walk 6 laps equal 1 mile. So, honestly, you can go by there at 6 a.m. and there's someone walking. You can go by at 8 o'clock at night. People love, and not just Franklin people. We see people from everywhere that come in because it's a beautiful, you're walking along, the birds are singing, the
Cool.
trees, the flowers are in bloom, and it's a beautiful park. We have a shelter and a barbecue pit. We have bocce courts and horseshoe pits and basketball and playground equipment, exercise equipment. Just everything. We've had
In the very
weddings.
front of the park, that's where the sidewalk is.
Yes.
And then they have some historic type markers up there that have been there. And on those talks about the Jefferson-Highway.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so now this has to go on our park list, obviously, since that's what we do.
Yeah.
But this also, I wanted to touch on, that in your area that you have, you've got obviously the museum, but then there's the Franklin Arma National Historic Site. You were talking about there's a Veterans Memorial, an Immigrant Park, the Stillwell Hotel, which I want to know about too. But then you mentioned the
That's
Jefferson
in
High.
Pittsburgh.
That's in
Right.
Pittsburgh. Okay, so it's all
Mhm.
kind of, but you're
Mhm.
close, right? Pittsburgh's not that
Right.
far, right?
Pittsburgh is our hub. That's there's the small communities. Some of them have restaurants, and like Arma, they have every service. They have gas stations and a hardware store, drugs. They have everything you would need in the little town. But the hotels are in Pittsburgh. We're like 6 miles north
okay.
of Pittsburgh. It's all close. So
We
everyone, if
probably
they're
went
coming,
through your town. I think we did. I think
Right.
we did that when we were going from Arkansas through.
Maybe.
After it was after the donkey, Roger.
Yeah.
Donkey.
No, we did. We went through because we've tried it as soon as any time place that we can go through, we will, even just to have a look as we're driving if we're on a time crunch, which
Well,
the
you
last few
this
times
little
we were.
area has it's such a there's so much culture here. The
Mm.
people here are great. Great. I don't know. There's just seem like everywhere you go in these communities down here. I don't know if it's just what it is, but everybody you meet and talk with here seems very, very positive, and they're just friendly. But the road here is really good. I mean, not very far from there, you can go across some beautiful historic bridges to the highway.
Oh.
You can, in our bus tour we took during our conference in Pittsburgh, we got to go up this route through Frontenac and up in this area, and you see all of you can really get a really good taste of what the highway was through here in this area. And we had a special event that they recreated for us during our bus tour. And Phyllis, you might kind of fill them in on that a little bit, because that was a fun event. We know.
Okay. Well, as we said in 1923, so it was 99 years ago, the highway was christened. And they actually did that in Franklin at, a big intersection there, which that intersection is where the drag line is going. So, we're all about, talk about coincidences, how did all this happen? And I just happened onto this newspaper article about it. And then the conference is coming to Pittsburgh. I mean, everything is like it's meant to be. It all just fell into place. So we decided to recreate that christening. And they had like, there were three young women, and one had a bottle of wine. Or no, let's see. One had a bottle of milk. One had a bottle of water. And well, gosh, I can't remember the third bottle.
Well, if I was there, I'd be the one with the wine.
Yeah.
So we recreated that. We got three young women, and we did this for the conference. So 99 years after that highway was christened, and we had built a new sign, "Welcome to Franklin," on that site after the tornado. So they broke the bottles on that "Welcome to Franklin" sign. And we had the county commissioner came to speak, and it was just kind of a fun event and remembering. And at that time, then of course we went into Pittsburgh because, well, Roger can tell you more about that, but they had some new signs that were being placed, historic markers about the Jefferson-Highway. So it was really a great tie into the whole thing, but to recreate that christening of the sidewalk or the highway from 99 years ago was just an amazing coincidence.
Well, this is amazing too. So next year, 2023, so April 27th. Oh no, that was the international conference, right? But in 2023, it was actually that was the date. Was it January 20?
January 15th.
15th.
Yeah, January 15th.
So listen, I wish we could be there on January 15th, but I mean, that's 100 years. Are you guys going to do something cool? I mean, can we have a party? I mean, let's have a Zoom party. Let's do something. I mean, that's 100 years of history on the highway.
The routing in this area is just like anywhere else. It changed over time. So some of the early routing went through Girard and kind of around, but this was a really neat event. We came across it must have been about the same time Phyllis was coming across it. We were I don't know how that worked, but we were kind of working on looking at things. And also we saw all these really neat articles of this event. And I have one of our board members in Oklahoma, her daughter got to be the daughter of the Jefferson-Highway. She was the young lady that got to do that. So I've been calling her ever since the daughter. Whenever I see this young lady, she's I don't know, 14 years old or so. I said I keep calling her the daughter of the Jefferson-Highway now. So I officially named her now.
but this is good. Are you going to do anything, Phyllis, for the 15th of 2023? I want to do something special. Let's do something special. We'll do something.
We'd like to move the drag line on that day, but I don't think we can get there. But the movers of the drag line, like I say, I'm meeting with them next week. And when we originally realized that we were going to have the funding and be able to do it. He said, well, we can't possibly move it till January because they were booked with already other big moves. So wouldn't that be awesome to move the drag line on January the 15th?
I think that would be epic. I mean, that's a
I'm
massive.
doubtful. I'm doubtful we can make that happen though. That's just a little bit of a push. But anyway, so that beyond that, we haven't really planned anything.
Well, even if it's not on the exact date, it will be within the 100-year period.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
exactly.
I think it's a whole year of celebrations, man. That's
right.
That's it. Well, we're coming to see you next year for sure.
Right.
I mean, we have
There
to
should
be part
be-
of like a century, you know.
There should be a song. I did it on the drag line.
Yeah, there are dragline songs. There are dragline songs. Don't
There have to
like
be.
that's a whole other show. I know.
Right.
Like,
Well, we
listen,
intend
the
to
whole-
drone video, and we'll have all kinds of
Cool.
videos of the move and everything because
Cool.
this will be a big deal.
Well,
At
one
least
thing-
and Nancy, when you being involved in managing and trying to keep a small museum together myself,
Mhm.
I know what difficulties they are, and trying to get a group of people all working together is
That's hard. Yeah.
and we're moving in the same direction is not always easy.
Nope.
And when you go into some of these communities, and I see them, and I go into museums across the country when I travel, and you can see differences. But this group is just one of these people is just one of the people you just see their unity, you see what they want to do, you see how together they are, and you see how prideful they are in this community. And people go there, drive by their day. They have no knowledge of the tornado. I mean, it's they obviously they probably wondered a little bit where are all the buildings that were once there. But all in all, today they just see a unified. When they stop in this museum, they're greeted. They just immediately see all these wonderful pictures and exhibits that they have here, and they also have so many wonderful programs, and it has. You're in the midst of so much history, and including the famous Amazon Army March, which is gained national attention.
Mhm.
We want to talk about the Amazon Army because this is an incredible story that before we started recording, Phyllis, Nancy, and I are talking, and now I'm like down a rabbit hole, and I feel like we have to do like a women's history thing just on mining show. So watch for that in
sure.
March, everyone, because it's we always think about the miners, but the women and the sisters, did so much. But before we get to the Amazon Army, Phyllis, so the tornado happened in 2003, May 2003. So now, like next year, 2023, this is a 20-year, you've got to think the
Right.
Jefferson-Highway is 100. Next year is 20 years of what you've done in recovery and rebirth. And,
Mhm.
I
Amazing.
think it's an epic year for Franklin next year. We're coming. We have to, listen, if there's a party, we're coming. Listen, I'll bring the birthday cake, whatever, and the wine. But honestly, I think this is such a story of resiliency and something that, when we, like I said, earlier on the show, so many places are going through so much that it's a story to give hope of what you can do if something happens. And that, when you wake up that next morning, you say about that silence. Nancy and I know,
Yeah, we
having
do.
been through that. And I remember we hiked through our favorite forest, and within hours it was gone. And we were evacuated and came back, and anyway, that's a whole other story. But that silence, and then having gone through a wildfire and you're freezing cold, do you put wood on the wood burner because you have no electricity for heat, right? Because everything's burned down around you. Do you put wood in the wood burning
I know. We were like, do we die of
there's all
fire
these
or
little
not?
things that happen in these emergencies,
Mhm.
but the aftermath tells stories of people
Mhm.
working together. And I think that's what I think is so important in museums when you talk about immigrant history and everyone. How do you cannot create a successful mine without people working together. And I think that leads to the story of the Amazon army. So I know we're going to do a future show on this, Phyllis, but can you give everyone just an overview of what happened? These
Okay.
women said, hell no, you're not doing that to our men.
Right. So it was in 1921, and people can go online. There's an Amazon Army .com and read more about it. And one of our trustees, she has been deeply involved in this, and her ancestors marched in the march, but she has done all the research, and she's done plays. It's just amazing what she has done. But thousands of women. The reports are anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000. So, and some of the photos we have, you can see it's just a mass of women and children marching, and they have American flags. They're walking down these old dirt roads, and they were marching on the mines. And the march actually started on the site where our museum was a Union Hall back in the early days. So it actually, that is the historic site, and the march began there. And they were so successful. They called in the National Guard. It was a big deal. But the story was carried nationwide, and the New York Times christened them the Amazon Army. You know, before then it was just a bunch of women or whatever, but they called, and so that name stuck with them. So they became the Amazon Army March, and they were all immigrants, or I say all, from Southeast Europe. And one woman who kind of was the leader of the group, she spoke, it was either 5 or 6 foreign languages. So you can imagine back then, I mean, what a wonderful woman to be able to have that education, to be able to do that. And she organized all these women, and they beat on like wash tubs. They had they would throw red pepper in the eyes. I mean, they were like nonviolent. They weren't with guns and knives and anything like that. But if you read some of the stories, they're just almost funny. They were talking about these dangerous women, and they weren't armed or anything. And many of them were jailed. They were taken to jail. And it's an amazing story. So you really, like I say, Linda Knoll is our trustee who can tell you every detail of it. And she has some amazing stories about it. So we're pretty proud of those women. And most of us descend from them. We have, everyone will remember, I was a baby. My mom carried me in that march, or, so, right. There's a lot of amazing stories out there.
Wow. And everyone, again, the website for that is amazonarmy.com. And when you go on there, you'll see that this actually happened December 15th. Which, when you think about December 15th, that is, you got to think that's cold. I mean, come on, Kansas is not that warm in December. I'm just saying they marched at that. I mean, December 15th, 1921. I mean, these women did that at that time. And it's just incredible history, when you think about going for it. So, go check out that website, and minershallmuseum.com as well. But before we go, and we are going to play the song Sisters of the Coal Mines, by the way, and this is by James Byfield. And I was quickly messaging him like, dude, did you write this? And he goes, no, it was inspired by a documentary saw on PBS, and then the great document Harlan County, USA, about women behind miners' strikes. So he always, once in a while, writes it from the women's side, and it's from his album Backwoods Glance. And I encourage you to go to his website, blindlemon-pledge.com. James Byfield is who puts this all together. He's been on our show for years. But when I heard this song, I was just like, this is amazing, because it talks about women standing up and protesting for their men, whether it's brothers, nephews, husbands, boyfriends, getting out there. So I think, so obviously this march really changed the face of, it's kind of like one of the early feminist movements too, in a way, women coming together, to make change. So very interesting. Let's go to you, Roger, on 2023, thinking, let's look at all these milestones. You have another conference, which is exciting for the Jefferson-Highway Association. Again, everyone can go to jeffersonhighway.org and join their Facebook group, follow their Facebook page, but their group is fascinating. I can't keep up with all these amazing posts of all these places. Like it's so cool being part of that discussion group, Roger. But it seems like everyone's coming together in Iowa this year, right?
Yeah, we're very excited. This has been a kind of a long time coming for Iowa. We were originally anticipating this conference to be in 2020, and we all know what happened for that. So we put this back a few years, and this group our conference planning committee has been working on this for much longer than they expected, but they're still a wonderful group, and they have probably one of the best conferences planned. I mean, I really very excited. Our host hotel is going to be one of the great ones. Is going to be the Park Inn, which is the last remaining Frank Lloyd Wright designed hotel in the country and the world.
Cool.
And it is a masterpiece. It was restored about 10 to 15 years ago, and it is a story in itself how a community said, we're not going to lose this. We're going to get together, form a foundation, and save this place.
Awesome.
And I think it has 27 rooms, and we're going to fill the whole thing up. There's no doubt. I can already tell you. But what's happening now, it will be the first time we've ever had a conference where the whole hotel will be nothing but Jefferson-Highway folks. And we're having to have an alternate hotel now because of demand. We have people already set to come from across the country. We have a wonderful bus tour going to go into Minnesota northward because Mason City is very close to the Minnesota border, and we'll be going up into communities like Albert Lee and Owatonna, Minnesota. We have some wonderful speakers coming, some surprises, and the community there is embracing us. We have just formed. It's very early stages, but we're going to do something we've never done at any conference before this, and we hope to continue this effort after this. But the plan at this point in time is we're going to do our first sociability caravan to the highway. We're going to drive with some of our conference attendees, any friends of the highway, along the Jefferson-Highway route, which is marked in Iowa. We're going to start at the southern border in Lamoni, Iowa, and we're going to drive all the way to the conference over a few days, greeting people and promoting the Jefferson-Highway, similar to what they did 100 years ago with sociability runs. So we think that'll be a heck of a lot of fun, and will be our first attempt to do it, even if it's just a few of us or if it's a large group. Is going to be a special event. We're going to kick that off just probably the Monday of that conference, which is from our conference in Mason City starts on June 7th, and we'll probably start this on June 4th or 5th.
This is awesome. Everyone, jeffersonhighway.org. Man, so you're going to have like a Jefferson Highway parade. I can see this.
We'll be working with communities there. You know, if a community along this route in Iowa hears this and they want to participate with a program or welcoming, or we can put on a presentation for the community if it works out. If you want to, we touched a little bit. Our friends at the Miners Museum of Franklin are one that we have one of our first Jefferson Highway historic markers through our program that you can get information on our website about. It's growing a lot, but we hope to have some ribbon cuttings or some programs along the route where we'll initiate these signs along the route in Iowa as we go by. We expect to have several real fun things, and we're going to touch on a lot of the things on the highway. We'll be tourists somewhat. We'll be looking at things on the highway. We'll be getting, some of the experts will be with us on this route. So we're going to be able to talk about things we see, but we're also going to touch communities as much as we can, and hope to get on some news media and that type of stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. I can see
Mhm.
one day, they have the recreation of the Pony Express Trail where people do
Mhm.
this ride every year. They ride like almost like relay style, but they ride the entire trail.
That's so
So
cool.
And we have also, I'm not going to announce the community tonight, but the board this week selected our 2024 conference site. So that is, that community has already been told and awarded the 24 conference. So
oh,
maybe
come on, Roger,
in our
tell
next
us. Come
broadcast,
on, tell us.
we'll be
Come
able to
on.
kick that off and
Come
make
on,
that a fun
Roger.
part of our
Do I have
next
to send
Come
you
broadcast.
on.
cake? What can I do? Come on, I'll send you cake. What do you like? Send you a meat pie from Natchitoches. Come on.
Yeah, you're getting
Well,
close.
I know everybody. Well, stay tuned for our next, Jefferson Highway show again. Typically, every fourth Thursday is our Jefferson Highway Association radio show here on Big Blend
Mhm.
Radio. But of course, Thanksgiving, you all should be eating turkey and having family time. So we're going to be doing this early. And once it airs, you can listen
Ooh.
anytime on demand. And stay tuned on nationalparktraveling.com. We're working on a Jefferson Highway travel guide. We're going to be putting the places we've been to, a lot of our writers have been to, and also developing a guide so you can see where to stay, where to play, not just places we've been to, but others as well. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much, Phyllis, for joining us on the show today. It's been a real pleasure having you on and sharing such amazing history. We can't wait to meet you because we will come see you next year. We're coming.
Thank you. We'd love to have you. I'm always happy to talk about Franklin and the things that we do in Southeast Kansas. So we welcome
Cool.
you and any of your listeners to come anytime.
And everybody watch out for that big drag line. I mean, this is the
Yeah,
big,
You know what
Yeah.
a drag
Wide
line
load.
is what my mind thought it was two different things.
You know
Oh,
what
okay.
I wonder about is somebody driving into that area during that time has no idea what's going on, and all of a sudden sees this coming down the highway. Or
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, I
Right.
know.
Like a
It's
dinosaur.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. No,
Exactly.
I know, Nancy, where you're going. No, RuPaul is not involved in this. Okay.
I know,
Anyway,
it's
so listen, minershallmuseum.com is the website to keep up with. They're also on Facebook and active there. Jeffersonhighway.org, and Jefferson Highway has an awesome Facebook page, but join their group because people are always posting all this like historic buildings, architecture, their road trip photos going on the highway. It's just, I mean, it once you go in there, you're never going to stop. So I'm going to say until you do the whole thing yourself. That's really what it's like. It's awesome to check that out. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We want to thank Natchitoches, Louisiana, the Convention and Visitor Bureau. We do a show every second Tuesday with Arlene. No, it's every third Tuesday. Sorry, I got to get it straight. Every third Tuesday with Arlene Gold over the Natchitoches Convention and Visitor Bureau. Natchitoches is the oldest city in the state of Louisiana. It is awesome. It's one of our favorite places on the planet. And we'll be there again next year, of course. And go to natchitoches.com, and that's natchitoches.com. So like Natchitoches is the website to
Okay.
check out, because you do need to go there. They have a whole park dedicated to the Jefferson Highway. They've also been host to the conference a few years back, and you've got to go, and you've got to have a meat pie when you go there because they are
It's
yummy,
Christmas
yummy,
time in
yummy.
Natchitoches too.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we just did a show on that. Thank you. Yes, Roger. They are celebrating. They're the oldest Christmas festival. 96 years, over 300,000 lights on Cane River Lake, starting actually this weekend. So yeah, it's happening now when you listen to this, all the way through Epiphany, so January 6th. Every Saturday they have a festival down on the riverfront with music and kids activities and vendors and all kinds of good stuff. And of course, shopping on historic Front Street. So you can go to Natchitoches Christmas. That's christmasnatchitoches.com. I don't have it off the top of my head, but go to natchitoches.com. You can get everything. Celebrating 96 years, 300,000 lights along the river and downtown, and 100 set pieces and fireworks. Who doesn't like fireworks out on the over the river, right? So check it out. And here it is. Here's a song from Blind Lemon Pledge, James Byfield and Blind Lemon Pledge. Here is Sisters of the Coal Mine. You can go to blindlemon-pledge.com. He just told me he has a new album coming out, so we'll have him back on the show soon. Thank you so much.
I love Mattie Haywood, Lord, with all my heart. We was married down in Green Ridge, that's where we got our start. We tried our hand at farming, ran a feed store for a time. But like most men around here, Mattie went down in the mines. They said the pay was better and you could make a life. Mattie brought home every dollar back to me, his loving wife. Oh, sister, sister, I see you walking on the line. My sisters of the coal dust, my daughters of the mine. The work was hot and dirty, and it proved too much for some. But Mattie kept the spirit while I kept our little home. On Sunday we had chicken, and the neighbors would drop by. They'd sit out on the porch, sipping dandelion wine. Now Mattie played the guitar, his brother blowed the harp, and they'd sit there making music while twilight turned to dark. Oh, sister, sister, I see you walking on the line. My sisters of the coal dust, my daughters of the mine. Now the union come to tell us conditions wasn't right. We need better pay and safety, or we need to go on strike. Mattie caught the fire, don't you know he led the way? And I never loved him more than the way he was that day. But evening brought the word, cave in at number 9. There was nothing left to bury when I lost that Mattie mine. Now the sisters, we got angry, the sisters, we got sore, and we sent a bitter message that we wouldn't stand for more. We was tired of being hungry, we was tired of the lying, we was tired of our sons and husbands dying in the mines. We grabbed our signs and shovels, and we raised a mighty shout. My Mattie, he was watching down while we made the angels proud.